Well, it's the last Sunday of the month, and we know what that means. That has meant for the last nearly 20 years, on and off. It's Jozi House of Poetry. The poetry session, which is, hold on a second. This is new for me. The messages are coming in. I don't know what's happening. Oh, I must go. Okay. So, hello, everybody. It's the last Sunday of the month, and you know what that means? It's Jozi House of Poetry. So, for a lot of people, that means time to bring out your poems, time to make your way down to whatever venue the session.
Hi. I am very late to poetry. I've written long form for many years, and then suddenly realized it's a lot of work, and then started writing poetry. And my first platform was Jozi House of Poetry. And it was a wonderful place to be sort of embraced the warmth of it. Going there on Sundays was like going to church, because I just moved from somewhere else to Joburg and I found an instant home. So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Maren. And then next up, can you please introduce yourself, Vangi Gantsho?
Hi everyone, igama lami nguVangi Gantsho, and yeah, I feel so thankful to be home. You know, Jozi House of Poetry is exactly like Maren said. It felt like church. Like we knew that on Sundays we're gonna get dressed up and we're gonna go either to POPArt, and it's nice to be back at POPArt, or to the African Freedom Station. And we were going to share our hearts and like just, you know, commune. And so this is the gift that Myesha has given us, poetry and community. And so we're so thankful. And so I feel like I'm so happy to be back home. And it's so good to see all these faces that I haven't seen in such a long time. So thank you for this. And thank you, Phillippa, for rounding us all up.
It's so wonderful to have everybody together again. And now Sarah, the other half of Mthembu.
Hi, Phillippa. Yeah, my name's Sarah Godsell. I'm a poet and an educator, and the Jozi House of Poetry has been a home to me since 2008. I was working it out this morning. 12 years, it's a long time that Phillippa and Myesha have been part of my life. And I think Jozi House of Poetry has just provided a home and provided a garden space for so many seedlings of poems that have then lived in other places all over the world, and for people who were just kind of coming out of their shell as poets and who needed a safe and rigorous, it was safe and rigorous, let's not forget the rigorous part, a place of discussion and poetry. And it's so lovely to see everybody's faces. We miss Myesha's face, but we are happy to be gathered in spirit with her.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And then next up we have Qhakaza and Thabiso, word and sound. And somebody else. We can't hear you, Qhakaza, we can't hear you. You're muted. No, maybe it's on your computer. The mute sign is off, but we can't hear you. Okay, we're gonna go to somebody else because Qhakaza and Thabiso are having a difficult time. So now we're going to go to another old faithful, is Quaz, aka Richard Roodt.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Phillippa.
Hello.
Thank you very much for having me. My name is Quaz, and I'm a poet. And I don't know, I felt I met Myesha Jenkins, I think, before she met me in the early 2000s when she was, around Newtown. And, as a light, you a little scared to approach. So then you build this sort of legend around them until they speak to you. And then suddenly you realize, oh, no, this person is a person. And I think over the years, what she has done is constantly affirmed what it was I was trying to do, and every opportunity she had to share a platform with me, that is what she has done, and I will always be grateful for that. I've had many beautiful moments on and off stage, because of the things that she has put together. And of course, just the poetry itself. Like, I mean, I fell in love with her poetry first. So to be able to become friends with someone whose poetry you adore, plus one for me, So yeah, I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very excited to share some poems in honor of Myesha. And kisses and kisses, and I hope she gets well soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What a beautiful message, and I'm hoping that she's listening. She's in the next room. And then, of course, our root, our foundation, our foremother. Oh wait, before we get to you, we're back to word and sound. Have you got sound again?
Hear me?
Yes, that's better.
Lovely, awesome. Hi everyone.
Hello.
Thank you so much for what is going to be another beautiful Sunday afternoon. I think that's definitely what we've all come to expect from Jozi House of Poetry. And yeah, I guess it's really great to see everyone as well. It's kind of weird that this is how we see each other, but definitely beautiful to see all of your faces. And yeah, I guess to be gathering in honor of the force that is Myesha. A platform like Word and Sound exists because back when I was a baby poet, that is who captured like me, and really had me falling in love with this beautiful art form, So yeah, I mean, hey, look, I'm in a safe space for things like that to be happening.
Yeah.
Which is also the importance of Jozi House of Poetry, to have some really wholesome, safe spaces where the whole family can come to. So I'm really glad that we can still continue having it even in this time, because I think more now than ever, we need this. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Qhakaza. And then I was just also going to introduce Makhosazana Xaba, who, oh my God, sorry, Kosi. I didn't ask Mjele to introduce himself. Mjele, please introduce yourself.
Hi everybody. My name is Mjele Msimang. I am an educator, a poet, and a photographer. It is a pleasure to be here at Jozi House of Poetry. It's been quite some time, and I've missed it. I've missed the community, the love, the tenderness that you, Phillippa, and Myesha have brought consistently. And it's good to be home. It's good to be home again. Thank you.
It's good. It's good to have everybody here. And now, I'm so sorry, Kosi. Please forgive me. Fire away. Yes, our living. Oh, thank you, Kosi.
Okay, so hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Phillippa, for thinking about this idea. I think it's a great idea as a way of honoring Myesha. I first met Myesha in the mid-90s when she was working at Interfund and I was working in an NGO. So they funded us in the NGO. And in those days, you didn't quite get close to the funder, but we sort of knew each other. And then we started getting close when poetry happened. So this feels very, very special that we're doing this during this time in honor of Myesha. So I'm a writer. I write in various genres, and poetry is one of them. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this session.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I would like to start the session with a poem by Myesha, because Myesha, one of Myesha's greatest loves is jazz. And this book, To Breathe into Another Voice, is one of her great contributions to the space. Myesha had so much respect for people, has so much respect for people who are musicians, are craftspeople. And so this poem is called Applauding the New, or Responding to the Malcolm Gianni Trio. The leader can follow. Rhythm slows and speeds. Sometimes there is silence, unstructured, but not discordant or free. A bass solo before we know the melody. Musicians can rotate on the instruments. You play mine, I'll play yours. Inspired by ritual, repetition, chant, elemental, multiple notes played simultaneously, build on layers of sound, diminish to a note, not always solid, must be seen. That's one of Myesha's favorite jazz outfits, which was the Malcolm Gianni Trio. So, who'd like to go? Who'd like to make another contribution, another poetic contribution?
I'd like to, if that's all right. The one of the poems I've prepared is also related to music, which is something Myesha seems to be made of. And I would just love to express that, if that's all right. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, you don't need permission.
Okay. Okay. My mind hums together a cushion of familiar taboos, but if you listen for too long, it drips. This music, now wet and tiptoeing, dark puddle replaces iris, head banging solitude, melody slashing through figment, as true as it is toxic, the blade an idea willing, but never as sharp as the mind and its cushion, the escape through music, wet and tiptoeing, until a culture, God willing, is ripped out of this familiar taboo. That's it.
No, it's fine. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Wet and dripping, hey?
Yeah.
It just came out the water.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much. Anyone else got a poem? Oh, what happened here? What's going on? Have I run out of...
Hi. So I'm
Yay.
happy to read a poem. And this poem was written It was actually first written to breathe into another voice. And then it was kind of developed into kind of a song and a call and response. And so now it can be read 3 ways. And so this is called The Day You Left. The day you left, I had been gone long before the trees wept all their leaves in a week. The grass grew pale, the winter came. You could not bring yourself to believe it. I refused to cry for you. All your tears turned green. Not a single tear flowers your riverbank. I was an abandoned hut, waiting. Surely you must have known. A roof, a door. You were always something in the meantime. Anything to make a home. I imagined housing your laughter, a place to rest on my way to the city. You rolling around inside me, bright lights and skyscrapers. You wanted noise. You hoped I would return. I made you think too much. I knew you knew I would not. The day you left, the trees wept all their leaves in a week. The grass grew pale. My chest turned into a starless sky, and I refused to cry for you. Not a single tear. I was an abandoned hut, waiting. A roof, a door, anything to make a home. I imagined housing your laughter, you rolling around inside me. You wanted noise. I made you think too much. The day you left, I had been gone long before the winter came. You could not bring yourself to believe it. All your tears turned green flowers by your riverbank. Surely you must have known you were always something in the meantime. A place to rest on the way to the city. Bright lights and skyscrapers, you hoped I would return. I knew you knew I would not. Thank you.
How beautiful.
Thank you, Myesha.
How beautiful.
Thank you, Phillippa. That, like, as in Myesha published that poem in, anyway.
Yeah, she did. And I mean, that is such a beautiful, beautiful anthology, you know.
It is. It
South
really
Africa's first jazz anthology. And there are so many poems there that I think are going to just be there to light our way for so many years into the future.
It's true.
That's so lovely. Are we going to stay with the theme of music and move on to another poem? Does somebody else have a musical something?
I do.
Oh, thank you, Maren.
It's a dance one. It's called Sway. Last night we danced with our ancestors. When we turned around to face them, a host of stern men was marching towards us. Black gowns flapping, they shook their heads, refusing to sway their hardened hips. The thick-bearded brothers turned to each other, making wars with their words. So we stood on our toes to look for our mothers. They were lying depleted at the feet of the stairs. When the drums started beating, the ravens did roar, holy books in their fists. They chased us from heaven and into the garden where a tight-lipped angel slammed shut the door. We turned around panting, and in the dark orchard, vague figures were dancing and swaying their hips. They were cheering us, laughing with soft broken lips. Last night, we danced with our ancestors.
Wow. Wow. I sort of want to hear that poem again.
Does that mean I have to read it again?
Sarah says, let's hear it again.
Okay. It's called Sway. Last night we danced with our ancestors. When we turned around to face them, a host of stern men was marching towards us. Black gowns flapping, they shook their heads, refusing to sway their hardened hips. The thick bearded brothers turned to each other, making walls with their words. So we stood on our toes to look for our mothers. They were lying depleted at the feet of the stairs. When the drums started beating, the ravens did roar. Holy books in their fists, they chased us from heaven and into the garden where a tight-lipped angel slammed shut the door. We turned around panting, and in the dark orchard, vague figures were dancing and swaying their hips. They were cheering us, laughing with soft, broken lips. Last night, we danced with our ancestors.
Wow. That was actually like a story and a poem in one. It just felt like there were so many like stages to it. It was really lovely. Thank you so much, Maren. I thought I saw Kosi also raising her hand. Does she have a
Yes.
poem?
Yes, I raised my hand because you were asking if we should stay with the music theme.
Yeah.
And I was planning anyhow to read this poem because I wrote it very, very long ago. And I was so excited when it came to me, and I said to Myesha, I've written a poem that I'm calling my jazz. I had never written a poem on jazz before. So the poem is called My Jazz. This is jazz, simple yet mystical. It's the jazz of my childhood, the razzmatazz of wonder. It's the cadence of youth, the gentle melting into adulthood. It is the jazz of womanhood, deep and mellow against the wall of certainty. This is the jazz of middle age, always piecing together like a quilt, colors, shapes, positions, meeting points. This is my jazz.
Oh, I love this. Like a quilt. I love the different kind of images that go with the different ages. You know, the older you get, the more material you have somehow. It just feels like the poem is made of life itself, you know. Thank you so much, Kosi. So shall we go to the youth again? Shall we go to Yamoria? Do you have a poem for us? It's that we're still in the music.
No. We don't have any music pieces, but I feel like we can steal bits and pieces from today and like hoist something together later on. Yeah, well, we'll share a poem.
Okay.
We'll share a poem that Mai really loves. It's a poem that we did at Jesuary, and she really liked the poem. And I guess there is some type of music in water and in breaking and in becoming fluid. Yeah.
Tell us this poem about water and becoming fluid.
To the girl who built her lungs on the ocean's waves. When will I quit borrowing from my lover's foundation to build my lungs? You have assembled myself on a fluid thing. You have furnished my mouth with mud bricks. My sanity has been bathing in dust for years. I've hung my pain like curtains to cover my teeth. My suicide cannot grow past the weight spudding in my throat. Now how can life be besides such a fast fading thing? You no longer plead with the living to teach you their ways again. Your neglect is disgusting. You have become a paper thing. Loose skin cannot know so much drowning. Your cheeks have been caving in. Your tongue knows more burial sites than the living. This neglect is disgusting. I have become a paper thing. Loose skin cannot know so much drowning. My cheeks have been caving in. My tongue knows more burial sites than the living. This neglect is disgusting. I've become a paper thing. Loose skin cannot know so much drowning. My cheeks have been caving in. My tongue knows more burial sites than the living. When will I quit borrowing from my lover's foundation to build your lungs? I have assembled myself on a fluid thing. Thank you.
Wow. I've also assembled myself on a fluid thing. Things are really wobbly. That might be just the nature of life, eh? What a beautiful piece of work. Thank you so much. And now, I don't know where I've disappeared to. This has happened to me now as well. Where was, oh, there he is. Then I'm thinking, what about you, Jared? You know, so I know your work from you being part of our poetry course last year. That's when I first met you.
Yes.
So I'd love to hear more.
That was an experience. I enjoyed that. I do have something here. Also, I guess also about fluidity. It follows on. It has fluidity as a theme. It's called Duplex Chasm. Okay. Here I was, lying in the midst of you, cradled by 1,000 centipedes. Cradled by 1,000 centipedes, we bury what time has marked for death. A sentence is what time has marked for death. A music score gets played many ways. Marks on a stage get played many ways. I sang Ave Maria for my father. I sang Ave Maria, Father, your nerve endings are in my body. Your nerves ending fray in my body. Mist condenses on what it touches. Mist gathers, obscures what it touches. I was here, lying in the midst of you. Thank you.
Wow. Hey, love.
One of my favorite poems out of this year, actually. So.
I mean, love, man. Why is it so painful? Why is it so hard?
You know?
Yeah.
Makes you tender.
It kind of takes off that hard outer layer.
Yeah.
And makes you breathe in the air, you know?
True. Softens you up for what's to come.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe we need to hear that poem from Sarah, the one that we love.
Water off, please.
From Sarah.
Okay.
Do you want something to drink?
We are building on spider webs, but it's working. Slowly, slowly. Step only this way. Careful, careful. This one falls and that one falls, but slowly, slowly we are rising. We are building on volcanoes here, round the bubbles and the sinkholes. This ground looks stable, but it's just crust, really. We are building on red hot. On red hot, we all get burnt. Battle scars painting songs on our faces, but it's working. Slowly, slowly, we are rising. We are building on ghosts here, comrades. Careful of this one's face. Careful of that one's mouth. We need to understand what they need now, to build them into our bricks like graffiti so they can still sing, so they can still scream, so we cannot forget, so we can see them clearly, lay flowers before them and not pretend. Not pretend. Because this one fell and that one fell and those thousands fell. But we are building. We are building.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for, there's something about your poetry that always just holds us together, and it's so vulnerable and it's so gentle, but it's so strong as a spider's web, you know. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. I know you also wanted to read a poem by Myesha.
I do. Okay, great. So this is from Myesha's Breaking the Surface, which is one of the first South African poetry collections that I bought. And I bought it at a Jozi House of Poetry, and I treasure it because she signed it for me. And it was before I knew everybody, and I was very shy of all of these amazing poets who were doing amazing things. And could I call myself a poet? And Myesha signed the book, and I was all very starstruck. And it's a book that I've had in bookshelf next to my bed ever since. So this is a poem called Fire in My Heart by Myesha Jenkins. Places that have only seen glimmers of sunlight stand fully exposed, stretching and yawning, awakened by the heat and the tremors of this love explosion. I am frightened by the light, stunned and shaken, so pure and bright and strong, illuminating paths I had forgotten or never knew. Fire walking beckons me, stepping tentatively, not knowing where I am, but knowing that you are there ahead. The hot wind swirls in my soul, everything in motion, and I know that I will look into the storm. This is what we can be together.
Yeah, together, you know, I think that's also one of the reasons why we chose the theme of connecting for this special edition of Jozi House of Poetry, because it's one of Myesha's principles. She's always believed in collective action. She's a socialist and she's a communist, says Nelly. Nelly's also in the house. Yes, she's a communist. So she's really, it's all about how we work together and how we use each other's energy. And it's one of the challenges that we find, because Jozi House of Poetry has always been a multi-generational space. And so right from the beginning, I always had the sense that Myesha, who's 18 years older than me and was working with people that were younger, you know, when she did the Orbit out there sessions, she collaborated with Natalia Molebatsi, wonderful poet who is not here today, but she was always working. I feel like she was apprenticing us, showing us what it is to be a feminist and what it is beyond the label. Because I just feel like there's so much posturing and labeling and putting yourself out there as this or that. But it's also about what you do. And what Myesha does is to bring people together, like we are here today because of Myesha. And consistently, as Mjele said, it was every single month we hold each other accountable. We make a decision. We're going to be doing this the last Sunday of every single month. We decide who's going to do what. We share the tasks, and then we hold each other accountable. And come what may, rain or shine, we would find ourselves in the right place at the right time. That structure and that commitment was something that built a lot of relationships that led to products, led to poems, led to shows, led to all kinds of things. But, you know, it's just a very boring thing. Just show up. And show up together, show up for each other. And that was something that Myesha was always trying to emphasize in these sessions, but not by preaching or teaching, but by doing. And I feel that that's something that I want to carry forward in my life forever. because I think it's worth it. This world is not perfect. There are a lot of things that need to change. And I don't know if clicking on a link or subscribing to a hashtag is going to do the work. We have to do the work together. And I think Myesha and poetry are ways that we can imagine ourselves into the space of revolutionary action, because we need to change the world. And that is the end of my thing. Yes, Quaz, please go next. Oh, Kosi, do you want to say something?
I was thinking of reading from here as we were talking about building things together and the idea of doing, because this is a project that you were involved in, Phillippa, as the editor of the South African issue. Is a poem by Myesha called It's Sea that I thought I'd love to hear his voice.
Sure, I'm having internet problems here. Hello?
Hi.
Okay, Quaz.
Hi.
I'd love to thank you once again for having us, Phillippa, and for the beautiful poetry that we are hearing. And I hope I'm not jumping the gun by reciting a poem by Myesha as well that someone else wanted to do, but this is a poem that has been one of my favorites, and everywhere I go, because it's so short and it's so and it says absolutely everything that it needs to say. I always tell poets to go check that one out, and for many different reasons. Who I was is not who I am, and who I am is not who I will be. Some bits falling off, the other parts sprouting. Inside of this cocoon, I dream of flight.
I dream of flight. I love that poem.
Oh man, that poem is my favorite poem ever. We used to have an art space, and I'm not sure what project Myesha was part of, but they published they printed rather a whole lot of her poems, and some were translated into isiZulu, and it was plastered all over the place. And everywhere I went, I'm like, I know this person and I know this poem, and whoever I walk past with, I direct them to it and say, check this out, read this, make this your mantra, and know that we are constantly becoming. And there's no destination. We are constantly learning and finding new bits and finding ourselves in other people. And that's who Myesha has been. I guess everyone has testified to it, to a lot of us in the Johannesburg poetry scene in particular, But yeah, I have another poem that I would love to share, please, if time would permit. This is titled Just a Moment. I am smoke and Sunday lunch. My wilting skin is the dying dog's whimper. My hands, the smell of candle wax. I'm a mouthful of tombstones and stories molded from wind and dragon scales. I'm the burning impi, the screaming blood flooding your conscience, the secrets in Mandela's coffin, and the failed revolutions buried in briefcases. I'm the infection of a wound untreated, the missing bone and feathers. I'm a fire pool full of bloated flamingos and ballot papers. I'm the snake in my own chest, the sound of shattering glass, the loneliness of aging, and the fly on a baby's face. I'm the knife in my uncle's hand, the open flesh on his brother's chest. I'm my father's face when we received the news, and that moment when we left him there, alone under the soil. I am currently without semblance, searching for shape, for body, for agency. I am water, searching for a moment to contain all of me. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank
Quaz,
you.
actually, would you mind reading that poem again? I don't know. Does anyone else feel like this?
Yes, please.
I want to
Yes,
feel that
please.
poem again. I want to feel it come through me again. Please, Quaz.
Okay, definitely, Phillippa. Sorry, I just got a little choked up as well. There was something I said in the poem that reminded me that this is also like real life, you know, and sometimes we write our lives, and it caught me off guard as well, off guard a little. I am smoke and Sunday lunch. My wilting skin is the dying dog's whimper. My hands, the smell of candle wax. I'm a mouthful of tombstones and stories molded from wind and dragon scales. I'm the burning impi, the screaming blood flooding your conscience, the secrets in Mandela's coffin and the failed revolutions buried in briefcases. I'm the infection of a wound untreated, the missing bone and feathers. I'm a fire pool full of bloated flamingos and ballot papers. I'm the snake in my own chest, the sound of shattering glass, the loneliness of aging, and the fly on a baby's face. I'm the knife in my uncle's hand and the open flesh on his brother's chest. I'm my father's face when he received the news, and that moment when we turned our backs and left you there, alone under the soil. I am currently without semblance, searching for shape, for body, for agency. I am water, searching for a moment to contain all of me. Thank you.
Thank you, Quaz. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us, and like I said, also thank you very much to Myesha for all the bits and pieces that she has added to all of us, and the bits and pieces that she encouraged us to get rid of. And yeah, we love her, and I love you, Myesha. I love you, Phillippa. Everyone in this forum is people I've engaged with and I know, and it feels like Jozi House of Poetry to be delivering poems like this here, and to know that it's safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that we can do this, you know. Thank you, Zoom. Thank you, Haley. Thank you, Emil. You know, and there I've been hating on Zoom because I have to teach on Zoom. But I'm just so grateful for Zoom today because, geez, you know, we really need to have this, and I'm really hoping that Myesha's hearing it from her sleep. You know, next door. Yeah. So, Kosi, you wanted to read from South African women writers. You need to unmute yourself.
It's done.
Thank you.
So I wanted to read Myesha's poem called At Sea that you selected for this journal. She calls it, at the end, she says it's for Mandela, 13th December 2013. The lighthouse has gone out. Our small boats afloat in the darkness, confusing manatees with mermaids, pulled out by the song of the sirens. But there is only silence. We have forgotten to look to the heavens, no longer able to read the stars. We have forgotten our way home, searching for the brightness of the shore. Slowly, we find each other, bobbing up and down, cold and wet, once again. As the brightness glows from our many radiant souls, turning the boats around, we start to row.
Oh, Yeah, I remember when she wrote that poem. It was, after Madiba passed, we all went to the Nelson Mandela Center for Memory, and Pitika said, "We need to get poems. We need to have poems." And Myesha just sat down and wrote that poem. She just that was her contribution till that moment. And again, in that poem, which is what I also just love about it, is that it starts off with this image of a singular person or a singular entity, which is a guide, which we're focused on, and when it is gone, we are lost. But then it actually ends with the collective rowing and moving forward, which I think is so much part of Myesha's strategy and resilience. You can't be putting all your hopes on some individual to sort your life out. It's up to us, the people. Hey, Kosi?
Oh, completely. I mean, can I just read again that turnaround?
Yeah.
Because it's in the last 5 lines when it goes.
Yeah.
Gaining our freedom once again as the brightness glows from our many radiant souls, turning the boats around, we start to row.
Yeah, our many
I agree.
radiant souls.
Many radiant souls.
But I mean, don't you find that
we turn our boats around?
Yeah. Don't you find it also so interesting with Myesha's aesthetic? I think is so the fact that she's a communist and very clearly politically in a certain way materialist, history bound, socially conscious, connected to real things in the world. There's also such a strong thread of spirituality that lives very comfortably within those structures, those images.
I don't quite know how to engage with the spirituality bit. I think for me, the connection with Myesha's poetry is, yes, from the collective point of view and working as groups and building one another, but based on feminist principles. If anyone were to ask me what connected me to Myesha, it would be the fact that whenever we talked, it seemed that our feminism was the same. There's so much conversation now around the different kinds of feminisms that are in the world. And between Myesha and I, our feminism was like this. And that's what we spent a lot of our time doing when we visited, talking about how we practice our feminism and the significance of being collective in whatever you do around feminism. And the significance of not just being collective for its sake, but being collective for the sake of building. We just heard Sarah talk about building one another, but building the lives we want to see in the world, particularly for women and our societies.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, in every possible way. Even from the moment of being diagnosed, it was a group of women who went with Myesha to the doctor to hear the news, this dreadful news. Then it was a group of women who collectively decided to draw up a food roster and took food to Myesha's house. It was a group of women who helped Myesha to move from the place where she was living in Yeovil to a much more comfortable and safe flat in observatory. And it was a group of women, actually a wider and wider circle of women that went beyond Yeovil and Troyville to Cape Town and California. You know, there's all over the world. We are breathing, walking women working together in some way to also help Myesha, but in doing that, we're helping ourselves because we're creating the world that we want to see. We're creating a reality of care, a world of care, you know. And I think that's what becomes present when women are working together for a better world and for each other's comfort and safety and love, you know. Yesterday or the day before, I was just coming back from Myesha's place, and one of my housemates said to me in this really wistful tone of voice, I wish men can do what you and these other women are doing for Myesha. And I felt like, oh, I'm sorry, Mtabisi. Mtabisi, I don't know what to say because we've tried and we've said, but you know, that's why the men who are at Jozi House of Poetry today are people who are like us, you know, they are like us. They care physically. They don't just say it, they actually go and feed the baby. They pick up the baby, they wipe granny's bottom if that needs to happen, you know. Anyway, let's not go there. Here, this, okay, Jared, yes, please, you want to do a poem? Thank you.
Yes, I have a poem that I'm actually working on, and yeah, and I think it speaks to what you were talking about right now. It's called Woman Bones. Her house is made of tiny tensions, small nails hammered into walls, key portraits and old degrees of warmth, serenely framed in varnished wood. Curtain hooks join with their holes in communities of shade and privacy, while lace fronts entice a wandering summer's breeze, announcing itself with a dance on evenings where the skirtings ease, with damp wrought by storms and forgetful windows. Her house breathes between wall and floor. Ants and termites reside alongside his imperial boots that make territories, erect fences. There is enough of her here to scatter him amongst the grouted tile, door hinges, bricks and roof, enough space for her expansion in the panting, pressing summer heat. In her house, the faucets wait, not too tight or loose, and shampoo squirts full without the need for purple fists. Here, every switch has its other, now beacon, now cover, now flickering LEDs on a TV decoder. An indecipherable error flashes between his shoulder blades and her hip bones, lassoing the moon nightly, partly. In the morning, light raises ridges in the ocean of their sheets. Water brains stain the ceiling and cry down walls. Still, good bones, he says, ripping the paneled faces to find the rot. He leaves spiles of their skin on the corner. Their cupboards slowly turn to coffins. There is no other way for him to rebuild but with her bones, growing inside of him, sandpapering his knuckles into door stoppers, making hammocks out of taut muscle, curving walls, resisting the claustrophobia of corners. Yes, the bones of our house could room and groove and pool his doubts into a home. But he is afraid to live like this, so far away from all his cherished blueprints. So I'm writing a series of poems that just reflects on, I guess, the masculine and the feminine, and how those two energies manifest in different forms and interact with each other, and sort of it seems, at least in our current time, they're at war with each other and they lie in bed with each other while still at war with each other. So yeah, I've just been reflecting a lot on that.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed the kind of armory of that war, the weaponry that goes on and off, and you know the unspoken pressure, you know. It really comes across in that poem. It's magisterial. It's rather an amazing poem. Yo, thank you very much, Jared. I think Mjele's got a poem, hey? We haven't heard from Mjele. We haven't heard from Afurakan. Oh, shame. Let's let the men have a go. Shame, man. Let it... I mean that very ironically, okay? But you know, I hate the whole idea of Women's Month, you know. It's like pat you on the head. Okay, our women, you know, now's your chance to speak. Actually, no, we all live here all the time. So thank you so much for coming, Mjele.
Or when people say, let's have the youth now.
Oh, no, please. Give us a break.
Shine, little youth.
Yeah.
All right. This poem is called The Bridge. My grandmother, guide who lives between my shoulder wings. I stick my fingers into the night, pull them out, tips stained with velvet. You come to me out of a crackling bluish summer, the open tongues of Mthembu, the obsidian bridge between this world and the next, the slit in the veil. Curling air tenses, holds back the dawn, suspends stars, and waits for you to speak. I have come miles out from the fog of the city, skeleton dreams limping under bright neon lights, to rest my knees before you in the red soil under the acacia tree, your daughter's eye holding the leaf, the shadow of your son holding the root. I am ready to learn, Kuku. I am ready.
Oh. You know, Mjele, it's so lovely to hear your poetry again, because I feel like you're so honest, you know, and your poetry is so sort of filled with feeling. And like I just appreciate the honesty of your love, you know, for your grandmother. And the literature that you've read that pours through these words, you know, it feels like we are in a city that your mind is creating, you know, and that is a wondrous place to go. Wondrous. Thank you so much. Lovely to see you again, man.
I'm here.
Vangi. Vangile.
Hi.
I miss you.
Oh, I miss you too, Phillippa.
Do you have another poem?
I do, and it's so sad. I'm so sorry. Like, I keep thinking of Myesha telling us how she doesn't like sad poems. Like, enough with the sad poems.
No, you know what? I don't think that Myesha has a problem with sad poems. I think that there was a certain point where there was a time where a lot of people were bringing a lot of pain and processing their pain through poems that were just about despair and nothing more.
Mm.
And I think that with Myesha's, she's a dialectical materialist. So there's the thesis, the antithesis, and the synthesis. You need to have the antithesis. You know, you might have a really shit day, but you also have to have a good day. You know, when I first started writing poetry with in in the in the presence of Jozi House of Poetry, and Myesha's mind was very much there. I was her apprentice, it turns out, and like I was full of those poems about how shit my life is and how hard it is and how alienated I am and how terrible it is, and I was going through a divorce, and you know, it was full of a big old mess. And she said to me, honey, don't you have one of those I love my girlfriends kind of poems? And I was like, just it for a moment, I suddenly went, oh my gosh, like what did I do yesterday? You know, I went for a joint in the park with my friend. So let me write a poem about that. I'm allowed to write poems. I'm allowed to be happy. So, of course, you're allowed to write a sad poem. It's important because some things are just really, really sad. And we also need to allow ourselves to cry.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna read a poem because I haven't written in a very long time. But I wrote this poem. But before I read it, I just want to read Say You're a Fish because, you know, because Myesha's listening.
Yes.
Say you're a fish. Say you love me. Say you're not afraid. Plant yourself into my sand. Follow me into the ocean. Let me swallow you. Say you're a fish.
Say you're a fish. I love that poem. I love it.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to read this poem that I wrote recently because recently we lost the third of my mother's 4 brothers. And so, yeah, so we've lost 3 of her 4 brothers. And this happened during COVID. Missing. Malume was alone when he passed, in a hospital less than 5 kilometers from our house. His wife didn't say he had been admitted. Mama found out through a dream. Malumekazi hasn't spoken to us since the incident with the catering money for Malume's funeral. She sent a message to my younger cousin to tell the family their eldest son had passed. Mama called the hospital to confirm, followed him to the mortuary, hoped to see his face. According to COVID regulations, Mama is extended family. Only his wife and children may view the body. When he first disappeared, he was missing for over 2 decades. Came back with half a leg and a new family. His wife and 2 daughters kept him to themselves. He kept to his wife and 2 daughters. I met his daughters once, I think, when we were preparing for Omalume's funeral. Mama was 15 when he went missing. The police raided their home and Utamkulu hid between the mattresses. Umakulu was sick. Umalume followed Utamkulu to the mines and ended up in Lusaka. Mama learned to hold her breath and raise a family. She is 64 now. He is, a year older. There are no police, no raids, nobody, no hope. He is gone and there is no body. A cold message with an online address. A box without a white sheet and a candle. Omakulu Ezlalini huddled in front of their granddaughter's phone, listening to people describe their eldest son in English. That's it.
I feel like your poems are medicine. They're medicine because they tell you what is there, you know. They start from what is there, and then they weave from that the meaning. And I think that that's really necessary in this world, where a lot of people are getting very emotionally involved with things that are not there. So thank you so much for your sad, sober, deliberate poem.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
we're living in a
really,
very strange time. We're living in a strange time, and we really need to be aware of each other. In as much as we are aware of our own loneliness and our own self and our own, like, you know, just how everything has changed for ourselves. Like, as in, I'm very aware of how my income has been affected, my movement has been affected, my this has been affected. But we're living in a time where collectively we have all been affected, you know? And if we're going to get lost in ourselves, we're going to fight to get back to a system that allows us to be selfish, that allows us to think only of ourselves. And so in this isolation, in this time of being alone, we need to find ways of reaching out to each other and being mindful of how we're in this together. And on the other side of this must be something different. It can't all be for nothing. Must be something different.
yeah, absolutely. We have to change the world. We have to change the world. And who is in the room is who is in the room. We're here together. We're not alone.
We're
For
not
this
alone.
moment, we're not alone. Right here, we're not alone. Today, we're not alone. We're going to carry this tomorrow into our hearts. We're going to walk forward knowing that we were together.
Yeah. I'm
Thank
so
you
glad
so
to be
much.
here. I'm so glad to, like, because you know the thing about Jozi House of Poetry is that you'll leave home and no matter how shit your Sunday was, like how it started, you'll get there and then it'll just be like, and that's how I feel. Like I'm sitting here and I just feel like I can bring my grief, I can bring my hurt, but I can also bring my love. And I'm also so glad that I'm held and I'm also here with you guys. And so, you know, we're like, you know, we find ways, We're not built to be alone, and here we are. And so we must touch each other, we must find ways, and we must fight for that. We must fight.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's so
I'm gonna
wonderful
get
to be
preachy,
with
so I'm
you.
gonna stop.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enkosi. So now we have a poem that's coming through Maren saying, I am here. Would you like to hear me? We say thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's just like here. The howls of Hecate. Howl. The moon is rising. Beyond these walls, the sky is whistling softly. It's calling you to fly the naked trees. Dogs bark. Your broken brothers creep around the garden. They're snatching after gold. Cold yellow light. Your lungs are limp. Breathe in, breathe out. Your knife is blunt from scraping at the sky. You can't get in, you are enraged. Howl, the moon is rising. Hush, the sun has set. Hold your breath and fall towards the luscious ground that sings to cats deep in their wilderness. See Your sisters fly, they're smearing blood across the dark-eyed sky. Heart pumps. Your fingers stroke the earth. It laughs out loud and opens up. You slide inside. Hush, the sun has set.
Wow. Elemental. That is poetry. That is poetry. That is poetry that just, it's just nature. It's a force of nature, and it's just so wonderful when poems like that come. Thank you so much, Maren. Thank you. I'm starting to wonder about, how's everyone feeling? Is everyone feeling okay? Please, can everyone put on your pictures? Let's see everybody. Oh, a little light coming on. It's so nice to see everyone's faces. How's everyone feeling?
Hi, Phillippa.
Hello.
I think for us, we've never experienced Jozi House of Poetry. And there's this sense of longing, and it feels like nostalgia too. It feels like something you felt or experienced somewhere, you know? And I feel extremely grateful just to have been a part of this, to have had such a safe space to just speak and feel and bring those sad poems, bring those happy poems, those jazz poems, and just feel like you have a safe space to just put yourself there. And you brought your tears too, which is just, it's beautiful. I love the space. I think I'm feeling very tired right now. I am tired. I think I'm a bit overwhelmed, but I'm also grateful. And I'm happy that we've all come together for Mai. You know, I really wish she was here to experience it with us. This is beautiful. Thank you.
That's good. That's good. Okay. I just, so I don't think, do you think we need to take a break, go and have a cup of tea and come back in 10 minutes? Or no, will we lose the no. No, they say no. Okay.
No.
I hear you.
We can
I
see
hear you.
that to you when you don't see us.
Pardon?
We can sneak off, we can switch off our videos and have tea, and the others carry on. We can do this.
I'm finding it very difficult to do that because I feel like that kind of magnetic draw of the poetry. It's like all I want to do is, like, I'm sitting here, Nelly's like going past me and saying, do you want something to drink? And I'm like, I'm just like in this thing. It's so amazing. I can just feel my cells just filling out and breathing. Well, I don't know, is Ayob here? Ayob Vania. He's not here. He's supposed to be here. Okay, Kosi, would you like to read us a poem? Okay, I'm switching off my picture. I'm listening to Kosi.
Okay, I thought I might, as I was preparing this morning, I was going through all my books and trying to find poems that have the connection bits that link to the theme. And so I put them aside, and this was one of them from this book, The Alkalinity of Bottled Water. It's called Isisu Somhambi Asingakanani Singangento Yenyoni. Turn right when you should be turning left. Ask for minutes when you should be asking for airtime. But none of that matters because we laugh out loud, talk into the night in the car, analyze, criticize, and marvel together. After all, this could be your other home. I will search for my keys in my handbag, find them after 10 minutes, park the car askew when the clearly marked white lines are straight. But none of that matters because we dine out, wowed, talk literature, families, and politics, analyze, criticize, and marvel together during your visit to your other home. Turn right when you should be turning left. I will search for my keys in my handbag, find them after 10 minutes. But none of that will matter because now we are aware of how special it is that we cannot undo our experiences. After all, this is your second home. We mirror each other. What I see when you say that is us standing face to face, hands firm on each other's shoulders, feet touch, toe to toe, pupils piercing, chests beating in sync as if rehearsed for decades. I wonder, have we been here before? Ask for minutes when you should be asking for airtime. I will park the car askew when the clearly marked white lines are straight. It matters that we connected, held hands, walked streets, breathed the Jozi air, talked, read, ate, and listened to poetry, analyzed, criticized, and marveled together in this South Africa that is now your second home. That's it.
That is just, I mean, Kosi, you and I had a debate the other day, sort of, about love, actually, and magnetic attraction. And when I was listening to your poem, I just felt like there are just so many different ways to be in love or to experience love. And this friendship, this deep, eternal friendship. And you know what? Nelly just came and told me that Myesha has woken up. So she may come just now. So don't cry anymore, okay? We'll see if she's going to come. So you can see her. Yeah, she's just making herself decent right now. But yeah, that's one of those I love my girlfriends kind of poems, and it's beautiful. Like, I think a good poem reminds you of something that you might have forgotten to think, or an experience that you'd sort of dismissed, or because it was so everyday, it was so part of your life, you didn't really care. So poetry brings those things back. It holds them up into sharp focus. I've been watching Myesha in the last couple of days, and she's got these gestures that are about, like, she's got these tiny things in her hands that she's putting together, and she's very concentrated the way she's putting things down and tidying them up. But the small things, poetry is always about the small things that the rest of the world does not think are important, but we know that they are, that we're made of them. They are the fabric of us. Maybe while we're waiting, or if we are waiting, we're not really waiting. Let's carry on. Let's go to Belita. I think she's got another poem, hey?
I do have another poem. and a response to something Vangile said, but I'll get into that after the poem. Sister, how do you get your skin in such soft kindle? Sister, is that smoke through the mirror of your pigment? So stressed out, the absolute is irrelevant. Mantras as dead as your ivory earrings. Sister, it is winter and our body will have its wood. Will pass off as human. Breathe because we must. Ears as sharp as pyramids. Laughter squinting in the easy sun. Clumsy anatomy. The rib and the knife working as one. And don't you smell so grounded? My raging cottonmouth coffee bean goodness. Sister, all those sharp edges are chiseled. Your mask dripping, the blood tickles, drips into the slightest outline of a spirit. Sister, it is winter and our body will have its wood. In its giggle of internal shadows, singing, fill your head with water. Crack the skull like so. If you shake hard enough, you can hear the swishing, the balloon in your chest aching, eyes, lush waves of something tossing. Sister, is that smoke through the mirror of your pigment? Thank you. So there was something Vangile had said. I don't think I've actually had a conversation with Vangi before. So this is a beautiful experience and honor, about how this is a time where we can't afford to be selfish because we're not experiencing anything in a vacuum or alone. And as someone who is very contained, I guess, in the things I experience, in the things that I feel, I'm not one that shares other than through the medium of poetry. It almost feels selfish to attempt to connect in ways other than the language I know now, you know? So just in trying to explore how to remain genuine when trying to reconnect with the world, because up until this point where we've come to this place where we're all experiencing this one thing, we've been living in our own bubble of what the world is, what life looks like, regardless of the few things we have in common. And I want to know how to connect. Earlier we were discussing the reference to youth or the division, you know, in these subgroups, and how there is a divide because Jozi House of Poetry, like the twins, I have never actually interacted with the sessions, and there is something of an age gap between myself and the legend that is Myesha, and stuff like that, stuff like the gap that caused this divide. How, besides poetry, how would I be able to connect to these women, to these legends, to human beings, period, when we are already categorized in so many ways as human beings? I hope this makes sense, and it is open to anyone in the group.
You know, I'm hi Belita. I'm listening to what you're asking, and you know, it's so easy to think of connecting as something that we can only do when we see each other or when we touch each other. But I feel like when I say we need to be more mindful of each other, we need to be kind of very consciously thinking of other people. I heard a story about someone who went, like, you know, when lockdown started and everybody was panic buying and all these things. And so this man, there were two people behind him, and he came to the the aisle to buy bread, and there were 3 loaves of bread, and he wanted to take all 3 of them. And so someone came and just like grabbed 2 of them because there was an old woman behind him who is going to need it. And I'm just thinking about the ways in which we hoard and want just for ourselves. So, for example, a way of thinking about other people beyond ourselves is how Phillippa asked, does anyone need data for us to be able to connect to this? Like, as in, what's important is that we're all here. So how do I think about how you are here? And don't dismiss being like that how you can share is through poetry, because that's really important, right? Like, as in, when you connect in a poetry circle, you're sharing parts of yourself. I think we're alone, we're living alone. Some people are living alone, some people are living with family, but how do we keep reaching out to each other? How do we keep calling each other, touching each other in ways that aren't necessarily physical, but to make you aware that you don't have to like feel so lonely. Even if you feel lonely, know that you are not like alone. I don't know if I'm making sense, but it feels so important to constantly reach out to each other. It feels so important to start thinking about other ways of living and doing things that will then, whenever the world opens up, we're not going to be stuck in a way of living where people die alone or live alone or feel so lonely that they can go for days before anyone realizes that anything is wrong, or weeks even. You understand? We can't come back to a world that is this selfish. We can't I feel like there must be a way.
I agree with you, Vangi, and I also feel like poetry's poetry is revolutionary in that way, and has been for the longest time, because it's emotional. It contains emotional information as well as intellectual information, and there's no divide between those. So you can reach out through a poem to somebody who doesn't have a home, or you can reach out on behalf of somebody whose plight touches your soul. Or you can actually just be kind to yourself, And I think that the one thing that's very important with Jozi House and Poetry that really cleared a whole lot of stuff for me is integrity. Myesha is a plain talking woman. She's not into kind of fancy metaphors and, being very original with the language. She wants you to tell the truth. Tell the truth from the bottom of your heart. Tell it how it is. And what you'll find in Jozi House of Poetry, when you do that poem, you'll hear the people in the group going, because they feel the truth. They feel the honesty of that. And at the moment, I think that everybody has been very kind of obsessed with their careers and how they sound and whether they're good enough and all of that kind of thing. And what we really want is a good poem, a poem that really expresses what the writer wants to get across. They want that poem to connect. So poem, like, like your poems, like some of the poems that we heard today. And also another thing is that I think the poet is also thinking about the reader. They're thinking about the people. They think about themselves. You're writing a poem that's about you. It's all about you, but it's also about the other, because you can't only write a poem for yourself. Otherwise, you're not going to share it with anybody. If you want to share a poem with other people, you need to consider their aesthetics. Will they enjoy it? So that's why with Jozi House of Poetry, people often used to bring poems that weren't really ready yet, but they wanted to see what they sounded like in the presence of other people. So let's see, does this poem actually, like, is it singing? Is it in tune yet? Are the words in tune with the heart? You know? And after the Jozi House of Poetry session, they'd know. They'd go home, they'd fix it, or whatever, because we are writing for each other as well, you know? So every time we pick up a pen, and even though we're sitting alone in a room at 2 o'clock in the morning, somewhere in the world, someone else is picking up a pen to write down what's happening with them.
I mean, one of the most beautiful things about poetry, and I'm thinking of about what Belita was talking about like, you know, the divisions, like, as in, you know, who's older, who's younger, who's woman, who's man, who's neither, who's both, who's, you know, who's whatever, who's, like, as in whatever your gender is, whatever your age is that I feel like poetry is an equalizer. You get some really young poets who write some really amazing things, and you get some really older poets who write some really amazing things. And it's at the heart of it is this ability to touch that sincerity that you were talking about, Phillippa. And I think that's what's beautiful about the Jozi House of Poetry space, is that we're able to all come together, and it doesn't matter, you know. I mean, I remember the first time I met you, Phillippa, you and Myesha and Natalia, and it was at like a consciousness event in Pretoria, and I was so starstruck. Like, I think I kept on like standing there, and I was like, oh my god, is that Phillippa? Villiers. And then I was like, oh my gosh, that's Myesha Jenkins. And then you guys hugged me. And I remember doing a Jozi House of Poetry with Mamkosi. And there's even a picture where I was hugging her so tight. Like, it looked like I was going to squeeze the life out of her because I was just so excited. Like, I was just like, oh my God. But the point is, you know, I was a baby poet too at some point. And poetry is an equalizer. What allowed me into this community of poetry was the fact that I was dedicated to the sincere telling of stories, and, like, you know, trying to get good, trying to get better at being a poet. And so, like, yeah, we're not going to play that dance youth zamntana omncinci khawuzojayiva bazokubukela. We're not doing that. That's like, as in, it's a very, like, as in, it's a very genuine, like, beautiful thing to watch poems live across generations. Why are you laughing, Mamkosi?
Can I add something to that, in response to that, in non-response to that question, your question, Belita? How do I connect? In my mind, you connect with the things and the people you want to connect with. You take the responsibility, you do the work, you go connect. So I feel like I didn't quite understand where you're at, where you're coming from, or the actual question you want to ask.
I think as I was asking it as well, I realized there were so many degrees to it and to what I wanted to know and to exploring it in a conversation. But I tried to put a lid on it because I didn't want to confuse everyone. But when we come out of this space where, we'll say pre-COVID, where everyone lived as they were following their own dreams and looking after themselves and just in a selfish state almost, or a singular state, because whatever I'm experiencing, it's only me, you know, it's just a very enclosed place. So this active effort, especially if it's in your nature to experience things on your own, to go through life on your own. But I understand when Vangi basically mentioned awareness, I think that's what I gathered from that. Just be aware that there is a world that exists outside of yourself. So what I was trying to get to was how to stay genuine in that pursuit. How do I not force myself to wonder what other people are going through? How can I make it a fluid effect without it? I don't want to take away from the honor, from honoring people, just, or us doing things for the sake of, because we think they're mandatory, basically. How can we make this second nature to just be aware of people outside of ourselves, regardless of what we're going through? And then what mediums we would use to discuss that. Is it social media? Is it our art? Is it online through these Zoom conference calls? I hope I didn't just make it even worse.
With Phillippa de Villiers, a monthly session similar to the original, where poets, especially women, can read and discuss their work. As a jazz lover with Natalia Molibati, I started an evening of jazz and poetry at the Orbit, a popular jazz club where words and sound could cross gender and generations. This grew into a book, To Breathe, a South African anthology of jazz poetry, published in 2017. My journey continues as a networker, someone who links women through different projects and genres. I want to reread that last sentence. My journey continues as a networker, someone who links women through different projects and genres. Interestingly enough, Myesha was the only person in essays, the one on Philippa's sister and the one on Jozi House of Poetry that she co-wrote with Phillippa de Villiers, and an interview, not essays, who appears 3 times in 3 different ways. And then an interview that was done by Mthembu on her work on poetry in the air at the SAFM. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that because I think for me, what's important to underline is what you think for yourself, what you want to do for yourself. Because when that's clear, you get it done.
Yeah, I'm completely with you, Ma'am Kosi. I think what I was hearing Belita ask is, again, how do we step out? How do I step outside my own path? As in, without stepping outside of my path, without making it feel like ngiyayifostela okanye ndiyenza just because I feel like I have to. And the truth is, no one can, you can't forestella it, because then it won't be genuine. But how do you make your path include other people? How do you make your path walk with other people? How do you do what you need to do, but not do it alone? So what would it look like to get to where you needed to get to with other people? So Myesha knew that she wanted poetry, but it wasn't alone. She knows that she wants to create spaces where she can listen to poetry, but it doesn't have to be a space where I'm the only one who's going to shine. It's a space where how many other people can I bring with me to the space? Because then I'm going to shine even more, because there are going to be more of us to create a light. And so basically we're going to have more brightness. as opposed to more individual shining. And so you can't force it. You just have to ask yourself about how do I open my path up to include other people, so that it's not just me, so that it doesn't feel like I'm like they forced and nyanzela ngokuba yo funeka now I have to work with this person and I have to do no, so that it feels natural. By hey, hang on, why am I the only one here? There's something wrong with this. And then fetch someone and build so that we're all moving together.
I mean, there are those moments where it's just you, but it's not. It's sometimes like when I was a Commonwealth poet, I was not really. I was very ambivalent about taking that thing that was given to me. I didn't go out and try and be the Commonwealth poet. It came to me. And Margaret Busby, who edited Daughters of Africa, both of them, and was the first Black woman publisher in the United Kingdom, said to me, do it for others. Don't do it for yourself. And Vangi gave me a dress. And Vuikazi made me earrings. So I went with women, and Myesha was like, let's hear that Queenie poem. Everything that we do is with each other in mind, but it's just to not, I don't know what that word was, because when you force it, it's really falls flat, and you have to be really honest about what you are feeling about anything. Moving, start there. Start with being really honest about you and who you are. I think Sarah was going to say something and I jumped in. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, it was, I was basically going to say just that. But I think that as somebody who is kind of inherently shy, and Jozi House of Poetry, it's always been such a space of bringing fragility and finding strength. Even if we're all fragile together, there's a strength in that. And I think that sometimes it's just about, like Vangi was saying also, looking at your own path and deepening those spaces where your footprints are, not trying to make somebody else's path or what you think it should look like. But it's all, what we're all saying is kind of coming back to questions that we need to keep asking ourselves as well, I think, all the way through our lives. So I think that I also just want to thank you for Belita for bringing that up, because we need to constantly interrogate what the work is that we're doing and how we are together. And what is so beautiful about this Jozi House of Poetry collection of humans today is that we have a web that we've built together, and that is growing, that has older parts and newer parts, and has different histories and has different futures. And there's so much strength in that it's about bringing other people with you, but also about, when I imagine the web, I imagine, my strand is broken and so I can't build. But because I'm in a web, there are so many other strands that make it hold, So it's also a holding of each other, that we can never imagine that we can do this alone. And Phillippa looked so beautiful in Vangila's dress and as the Commonwealth poet. And she spoke to the Queen, yes, with very... because we can't survive on our own. That's the thing, it's a back and forth. And we're not going to get into the thing about poetry industries or not poetry industries, but poetry, what I love and what I love about all of the people here, the years of work that have gone into building poetry communities that are about words and survival, that are about joy and loss and better worlds. At the end of the day, it's about better worlds for me. So I don't know if any of that helps. at all. But thank you for asking the question that we need to keep asking ourselves.
I just wanted to say my experience of poets saying that seeing that I've gone into this age is an incredible generosity. And I think that has to do with vulnerability because we're all walking around naked and we can't, I mean, just like if you're open like that, you sort of need to be generous. And it's just an experience I've had with poets, is enormous generosity. And especially in this group, and Phillippa's wonderful things that she kept bringing. They were phenomenal. So just that.
Sorry, can I just ask Emil to mute their mic?
Yeah.
Emil, please can you mute your mic?
Reverbing here with you.
Phillippa, you're muted.
Okay, thank you. Dude, you know, I just want to say just one more time. Remember, I don't know, you're 21, 22 years old?
22.
22 years old, beautiful, curious about the world, and all of those things. So, you know, I just also feel like Vangi was saying, there's a hell of a pressure on you to adopt a cause, you know? Like you're Miss South Africa. And so now you've got to be the spokesperson for a I don't think that that's what I intended to say actually anyway. But I feel that it's more important for you to connect with yourself. At this stage, be selfish. Go inside. Find out who's there. All the different people that make up who you are. Find out who those are and respond from a place of integrity inside, you know, yourself. That's what I just think. Because you're young and beautiful and you must enjoy that, you know? Enjoy that while you can.
Sorry, Phillippa, can I just say that there's a big difference between being selfish and being self-finding?
Yes,
thank you. Because we really need to rewrite that narrative of, when you seek yourself, you can do it at the destruction of anything. Because I'm in pursuit of myself. Finding yourself shouldn't be at the expense of tearing the world apart. And I say this as someone who kind of tore so much apart in seeking myself. And I'm very aware of how much damage that did. But as in that self-finding is deeply important, it's hugely important, but we can't write it as it can be at the expense of everyone around us or anyone around us. You know what I mean? When you start fires, something burns. So just, be aware of that. But definitely be self-finding, because that's the most important thing. Can we have more poems now? Yeah.
Because
I feel like we just got so deep.
that you're writing from, you know? That's the place that you're writing from. So you must honor that space. You must honor that being, that entity and those entities. So please, can we just have a round of poems before we end? Because, hey, it's 4:00. So let's go with a round of poems, starting with the youngest.
Who's the youngest?
That would be me.
Nice.
Hey. Is it okay if I do go first? Is the youngest responding? Okay.
I give my permission.
Thank you very much. This poem is titled Dis Mos die Basics. Fluister, dans alleen, roep die maan nader, wees God, wees koning, wees die verlore held. Voete soen gras, naglig vryf swart vel, bloed roep, hart klop passie, vuiste in die lug, almal wil iemand wees. Maar niemand wil die skottelgoed was nie. Baie dankie. That's the last of my poems for today. I think it speaks to exactly what it is we've been saying. We want to do amazing big things, and sometimes we just need to settle down and do the things that are necessary. So yes, you can go change the world and you can become God on the lawn with your bare feet, but when you go into the kitchen, you still need to wash the dishes. And I think sometimes we need to just also, take responsibility for the things that we don't want to do and that we think others can do for us. That's really what that poem speaks about.
Phillippa, you're muted.
Baie dankie vir die Afrikaans, my liefling. I love it when people speak their language. So that was just really beautiful. So can we actually, like I said, a round of poems, eh? So does anybody have another poem? I think we're going to go over time. Is that a bad thing, Hayley? Hayley's gone out the room. Okay.
I'm happy to share a poem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Come on, Sarah. Let's hear your voice,
so
lovey.
This is also another one of the Love Your Girlfriends poems. And I originally wrote it for Vangi, but I want to dedicate it to everyone here today, but especially to Myesha and to the people who are caring for Myesha right now. I want to carve a stone for you, with a small door for you to hide in when you're exhausted. The world pulling on every appendage, climbing up your tears into your eyes to pick through your mind, mining diamonds and then rushing them away from you to shine in the sun. This stone will be temperature flexible, warm in your chest when your fear is cold, cool when your anger is burning. It speaks your languages, so no one else can claim it or you. It reminds you, you are everything. You deserve rest. You deserve space. You deserve holding where you don't have to be brave. You deserve lightness. You deserve gentle dark. You deserve softness where you don't have to think who to thank. You deserve to explore without having to hold. You deserve love without having to speak. You deserve wings where you do not have to fear what will happen to the ground when you fly. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. We deserve all of that and more. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, I thought maybe I should do a poem. Should I do a poem? I think this is a new poem. It's not very, I don't know how cooked it really is, but it just feels like this Corona period has been all about grief and grieving. So it's called Gristle. In times of grieving, red wine for breakfast makes perfect sense. Beyond the silent clatter of yesterday's dishes, the green bottle nods, not yet. The mournful Luri calls, I hear it before climbing online, balanced over an ocean of wuthering wants, tangled transactions, ancient weeds, white flags fluttering horizon wide. Below the surface, multitudes of hydras stretch tender limbs undulated by a monstrous tide. Online I am digested, like that French tourist taken by a crocodile in Okavango, eaten whole by nature's terrible machinery. On the riverbank, her towel and shoes. Trawling the web, I catch a glimpse of my clothing in this era's teeth. Last week, a friend died like a tree collapsed amidst a cacophony of birds. The virus keeps reaping its tender harvest, leaving us raw. Solitude is electric when the power is cut. When it's on, I am myself, staying home, welcome only the cold that creeps through the glass, the only embrace allowed, and grief, the gristle, the long. A portly spider cringes as boiling death floods toward it. I make a ladder of toilet paper and abandon my bath for later. Why should he die? He's probably never even contemplated suicide. The sun ambles past the rosebush. It's 9:30. Now for that wine.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you. Thank you. Mjele, are those your eyebrows that are going up and down? Does that mean you have another poem?
I'll go after the next poem.
No, don't be coy now. It's the end of the road. There's not much time left.
Do I have a poem? I have to think which poem to share. If anybody has a poem they'd like to share, now's the time.
I can give you like a quick head start.
All right, go.
The cosmic circle remains an intimate cosmic joke. The human body, a series of phosphate drones. Your skin glitters with drops of liquid gold. From star to being to sponge to feeling too soon and eating too much. Chug down the weather and brew what we must. But the rain may seep like liquor and provide fermented liver. You string a revolution up by its legs, that it may find its cause, eating at ankle and then eating at voice, loose and lonely and out of control, huffing its way unbound. That is it.
Thank you very much. Mjele, you've been asked for Stay Go.
Okay. All right.
That makes it easier, hey?
That makes
when
it.
You've got fans.
Stay. Go. For my grandfather. I tiptoe down the staircase of your name. Every barefooted step sticking in blood from the expanding civil war in your cells. I reach the basement of your lung, flooded in the red-yellow laugh of cancer. You roll onto your side, cough hard. My feet slip and I collapse to my knees, pleading, you be spared. Faith, a candle extinguished in youth, but today my hands are matchsticks, pushing the air between my palms into a wick, a flame. Grandpapa, stay. The year is dressing up to leave and has asked you for one more journey. Stay, please. You face the ceiling, your ribs enduring sharp implosions from a lack of oxygen. Stay. Your face blurs, spectre wisps pulling at your withering cheeks, your receded white hair. Go into the blind night of dreams, quiet pond of morphine, waiting red soil. You are open now, all the syllables in your name glinting low, ember butterflies floating above a red-yellow sea, drying round my knees. Go. I will stay for you, for now. Your name a purple bruise in my throat, a confession of a love that will never stop speaking to your shadow on your black rocking chair. Go.
Oh, that was so beautiful. And it feels like that's a poem to end, hey? That sort of like catches everything. I don't know what anyone else feels. For me, that's the poem, right? Beautiful poem, Mjele. Thank you. Thank you so much to your ancestors who came to me this morning and said, what about Mjele? What happened? What were you thinking? Why did you forget to send him the thing? I'm so grateful to all of you. I'm so grateful to you, Myesha. I'm so grateful to this community of poets and healers. And thank you so much for being here today. Just because it's Women's Month, I'm going to say it's Women's Month, but every month is Women's Month for women and for people who love women and care about women. Lifetime belongs to us, you know. I don't know. Vangi, do you have a poem? Did you want to do another poem?
I had a poem, but I actually really feel like, you know, you don't want to preach after the pastor's given the sermon, and that was enough. That was like, listen, I'm full.
I'm also so full. I'm so full. Thank you so much. You know, I think we must remember how Myesha sees us as poets, as human beings, each our own little light, moving into this darkness, and know that to trust that light and protect that light and find each other again. Thank you so much for joining us for Jozi House of Poetry. And thank you for all the people who watched and were part of it. Maybe you can just have a quick sneak as he naps.
Hello, Myesha.
I just had to do that. So thank you very much let's do it again sometime, you know. Thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this special session.
Thank you,
Thank
Phillippa, and thank you, Myesha, for all you've done for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
These are
Thank
your
you so
flowers,
much.
Myesha. These are your flowers. We are your flowers.
These are your flowers, Myesha. Thank you so much, Haley and Emil, for doing this, for having this event. Oh, we don't have to go off so quick, says Haley. Okay, yeah, let's end the broadcast.
Yeah.
Thank you. Jozi House of Poetry says, thank you, all the people in the rest of the world who came to see us and breathe with us for Myesha. Thank you. How was that, guys?
That was amazing, Phillippa.